Hello everyone, myself Vaibhav. In today's session, we are seeing the subdued momentum prevalent in the equity indices, and for the US equity indices futures, we are seeing modest correction happening. And looking at the price pattern, I think there is this possibility of correction happening from the current level. So, in a way, we can say that the Dow Jones Industrial Average is losing steam, and we might see further consolidation with downward bias. Of course, from the short term perspective, we are not really going into the medium term and the longer term trends where it is still bullish, but from short term perspective there is this possibility. So we will try to exploit that in today's session of market movers. If you consider the data docket for the day, earlier in the day we got the GDP numbers for the Australia, and for the third quarter of this year, the Australia's GDP has performed better than the expectations, with the quarterly growth in terms of quarter on quarter coming at 3.3%, which is higher than the expectations of 2.6%. And in terms of year on year, there is a still decline, but it is not as steep as it was in prior quarter, the second quarter, and also it is lower than the estimates. So in a way, the GDP is doing well, and I think that is because the Australia has been able to contain the pandemic better than most other countries, and that is being reflected in the pickup in economic activity. Later in the day, for the European trading hours, we got these unemployment numbers for the euro area as a whole, and there is a slight decline in unemployment rate for the month of October now, which stands at 8.4% compared to the prior reading of 8.5%. But I think the increase is not that phenomenal. It is still an increase, but nothing much to write home about, and we are still grappling with the increasing cases in euro area, and that is going to weigh heavily in the future numbers. Moving on to the North American trading session, today is the second day of the testimony before the Joint Economic Committee of the House of Representatives, and I think in today's testimony we are not really likely to get any fresh revelations on the monetary policy front. And if we look at the yesterday's pronouncement of Mr. Powell, he has said that there is some upside risk emerging because of the vaccine developments, and also the better than expected developments in economy, but the Federal Reserve is not going to wind up its asset purchase program, or it will not be looking at making any changes, substantial changes in the monetary policy anytime soon, and they will keep continuing with accommodative monetary policy stance. Now moving on to the technical front, first we will cover the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and then we will take a look on the USD JPY. Let's start with the Dow Jones Industrial Average technical outlook first. This is the daily time frame chart, and the consolidation I have been talking about in today's session is after taking into consideration the inability of Dow Jones Industrial Average to climb and hold above 30,000 level. For last week, it has hovered just below this 30,000 mark, which is psychologically is also crucial. And I think from short-term perspective, we might see some decline from the current valuations, and the immediate support will come into play around this prior swing highs, that is there around 29,000. So looking at that, I feel from short-term perspective, it will be better for us to start looking for short selling opportunities, and that's what we will be doing in today's session. So looking at the lower time frame chart of 4 hourly, we have this price action now entering into the lower band of this regression curve, and if this continues, we will see further flattening of the regression curve. It was earlier went steeply on the upper side, but now things are changing, and this consolidation phase is going to make the regression curve a lot more flatter. If we consider the pivot point series, the underlying momentum is still on the bullish side. We don't really have any major resistance into play. until and unless this first resistance, which is well above the 31,000 mark. And at the same time, the support is also far lower. We have this crucial point of central pivot point of this month's pivot point series coming in around 28,700. And as I said while explaining the daily time frame chart also, we have the prior swing high support around the same zone. So in a way, the Dow Jones Industrial Average price action is happening on the bullish side of the pivot point series, but it is evenly poised here. And even if some sort of correction takes place, the medium to longer term trend is still going to be bullish. But from short term perspective, this is the opportunity to look for scalping opportunities here. So looking at that, I think we can use these 50, 100 and 200 SMA formation on the hourly time frame. We have these convergence taking place, and the price zone around 29,700 to 29,800 is going to be of lot more importance in today's session. And unless and until we see a significant break above these 100 SMA, we can continue to bet on possibility of further correction happening in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So for today's session, the opportunity is here to go short around the current valuations in the price band of 29,700 to 29,750, right around the market pricing. And on the higher side, I think the stop loss anywhere above the 29,900 should be good enough. So we are not really taking much risk. And on the lower side, we are targeting the decline at least till this immediate swing low established just 2 days back. And if things hold well, we can even anticipate the decline to deepen, and it might even go towards 29,000 in due course of time in next couple of sessions. So that probability is always there. Now moving on to the sorry, I think I forgot to change the name, but it is going to be the USD JPY's technical outlook. Here we have the daily time frame chart for the USD JPY. From a longer term perspective, the the USD JPY's formation is still bearish, and that is there to see for all of us. But on the lower side, we have seen it finding good buying momentum closer to the 104 zone, and even this time around we saw it making a low which was higher than the prior swing low. So we have this formation of higher lows. Of course, on the higher side, we don't really have the formation of higher highs, but till this resistance zone which is there around 105, I think the retracement can take place, and that is the possibility we will try to exploit in today's session. So coming to the 4 hourly chart, we have the central pivot point around 104.4, and looking at yesterday's breakout and then sustaining of that price momentum gives us much more hope for today's session. And I feel as long as the price action is holding well above this central pivot point, we can be fairly confident of the continuation of the bullish momentum in the short term. And in due course of time, even these prior swing high levels and also the next resistance zone on the pivot point series can be reached in next couple of sessions. We have this almost flat regression curve, and looking at the momentum on the lower side, the buying support, the possibility is there. And if we want to optimize our entry and exit, we will have to come to this lower time frame charting, where we have the crucial support in and around this 104.20 price marker. In yesterday's session also I had said that this is the time to look for buying opportunities in USD JPY, and yesterday's anticipation did well, and we saw this uptick in the price where we saw the USD JPY climbing towards 104.75. Now looking at the current price trajectory, I feel this upward momentum is going to sustain, and if you want to get involved, I think we should be targeting these consolidation phase highs, which are likely to act as the near term support. So the if price drops anywhere closer to these 50 SMA, we should look for due consolidation before deciding to go for the fresh opportunities. And if we see the USD JPY holding well above these 50 SMA and anywhere closer to this vicinity of 104.4 to 104.5, we can be fairly confident for going into the long trades in USD JPY, as the underlying momentum is likely to push USD JPY towards higher side, and by the end of week we might even see USD JPY crossing above the 105 levels. So that will give us a good trading opportunity to go long. And speaking from the risk reward perspective also, if we go for the stop loss anywhere closer to this prior swing low, I think we don't really need to keep stop loss that wide. Even closer to 104.10 should be good enough. And if we are going in for the buy trade anywhere closer to 104.4 to 104.5, that will be a risk of around 30 to 40 pips. And to compensate for that risk, we will be targeting more than 80 to 90 pips on the higher side. So our target will work out just little below the 105.5 price target, and conservatively that will give us the desired risk reward also. So that's it from my side for today's session. If any of you have any query or any idea to share, you can give me the feedback in the comment section, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. Before I sign off, I would also like to remind of the risk associated with trading in the financial instrument, and one should be careful while using the information provided. Do subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you all for joining in. Goodbye.